practice 3. Times will not be of major importance in this session. It will be just a shakedown, effectively a warm-up ahead of Super Pole coming up at 11 AM today. Remy Gardner leading them out on the GRT Yamaha, the number 87, the only GRT Yamaha this weekend. Unfortunately, no Dominic Egerter following that training crash earlier in the week.
Yeah, shame for Dommy to miss out here in Estoril, and we'll see if he's back in Arret. But for GRT, obviously, losing out on a rider at the end of the season, never ideal, but with Remy, you're trying to see whether or not that Yamaha is able to keep itself in the top 10. Yesterday, 9th fastest in the afternoon session for Remy Gardner, and really in the Super Pole session, if they were able to come away with top 3 rows of the grid for Locatelli, Ray and Remy Gardner, then it'd be a really good start to the weekend for Yamaha and gives them a good platform for the rest of the week.
Ryan Vickers has been in the news over the course of this weekend. An impressive performance for P5 across the combined sessions yesterday, but it was announced that he will not continue with the Moto Corsa team next season, to the surprise of some, and some rumours that he'll go back to British Superbikes next season. We'll wait to see what Moto Corsa decide ahead of the 2026 season. Yeah,
it's a shame for Ryan. There's been a few flashes through the course of the season of some speed. If you think back to Hungary, you think back to Donington. But ultimately for Moto Corsa, they've made their decision. Vickers had a contract for next year. There's a bit of a dispute about that situation, but it'll be interesting to see where he lands next season. He's going to have options, whether it's to stay in a Ducati in BSB, or you're hearing a few rumours about him potentially being the Honda test rider here as well. Like we've seen Tommy Bridewell come in and do some wild cards, so maybe Honda is an option for him as well. And certainly it'd be good to be able to see Vickers have that opportunity, and we'll see where he lands for next season.
The motor showed some impressive pace yesterday, 3rd and 4th in the combined sessions of FP1 and 2, especially improvement from Axel Bassani as well, taking P4 overall in the times. The best we've seen from the Italian for some time. Bimota taking the fights to the top 2. So the fight for 3rd in the championship becoming important as well, with Alvaro Bautista and Andrea Locatelli both looking to improve. They know they can try and catch up to Danilo Petrucci, with the Italian having withdrawn from the weekend. Another man in the news recently is Xavi Vierge on the Honda, but he will be moving to Yamaha. Big shoes to fill next season as he replaces Jonathan Ray in the factory Yamaha line.
Yeah, big shoes in terms of the CV for Ray. Obviously for Johnny and for Yamaha, it hasn't gone according to the plan that they would have had. So for Xavi Vierge, he gets the opportunity to come in, and realistically, for the performances that Yamaha have been able to get from that side of the pit box, he should be able to come in and do a pretty solid job. And I think that's where this weekend for Ray, we can see we ride on board with. He ran off the track at turn 1. It's one of those situations where if Johnny's able to qualify well, he can race well, and we'll see if he's able to put in a lap in a couple hours' time.
Jonathan Ray able to recover there. We saw the yellow flag out briefly at turn 1 as he ran wide. Denning and the team looking on. Johnny looking to continue the improved form he's shown over the last couple of rounds. Track temperature already up at 21 degrees as well, so things rising fairly rapidly. It was up to 40 degrees yesterday afternoon, so these hot and times, as we said, windy conditions certainly proving a test for the riders. We'll see times start to come in shortly, but as we've said, timing not of massive importance in this session. It's all about shaking the machine down, getting warmed up for Super Pole at around 11 AM.
Yeah, one of the things that a few teams will do during this session is throw in that Q tyre just to do a simulation run and see how they fare.
Yes, Danilo Petrucci's machine on display in the pit box. Get well soon to the man who's currently 3rd in the championship, the leading independent rider this year. Certainly a bizarre accident indeed. Slipped while doing some training in the gym, and his hand made an impact with a metal wart, suffered a broken bone in his right hand. He tried to ride in free practice 1 yesterday, as we said, but worsening symptoms after that session, and he has had to pull out of the weekend. Great shame for Danilo Petrucci, and I hope to see him back out at Jerez next week. One rider we don't know for certain his plans for 2026 yet is Andrea Iannone on the Go 11 Ducati. Showed some improved form over the last couple of rounds. He's looking fairly quick early on in this session. One or two linking him with the Moto Corsa ride after the announcement yesterday about Ryan Vickers, but that seems unlikely, others are saying at the moment. We really don't know what Iannone is planning for 2026 at the moment.
Yeah, Iannone knows at this stage, and for Andrea, it's been flashes of speed over the course of his World SBK career, but ultimately it's a question of what's going to happen for him next year. But he needs a couple of good rounds to finish off the season.
Shown some strong pace so far. He's currently second in the times in this session. Combined times, he was in P9 from yesterday. So Remy Gardner, who's done the quickest lap so far this morning, ahead of Niccolo Bulliger. Michael van der Mark going well too, and good to see Taron McKenzie up there as well. He had a spill in FP1 yesterday, a couple of spills yesterday. Ike Lecuona had a spill as well. Good to see Lecuona back on the bike as well after missing the last couple of rounds with that arm injury sustained at Balaton Park. Lecuona, important that he gets some laps in here on the Honda ahead of his big move to Ducati next season. Also in good form as well. Alex Lowe's had a few podiums a couple of rounds ago. Strong for the Bimota squad this season. The Lowe's brothers have started to have a bit of a friendly rivalry once again with Alex over the last couple of rounds, battling with his brother Sam on the Mark VDS Ducati. Both of them showing a good turn of pace over the last couple of rounds. Yeah, we've been able to see, especially for Bimota, good improvement, and they've been able to get a lot more out of that package over the last few rounds. A lot of what happens over the course of a Superbike weekend is conditioned by the Superpole session. If you qualify well, you're able to stay at the front. If you qualify down the order, it's very difficult to make that progress through the field, and I think that that's been one of the things that for Bimota, with such a new project this year, it has been quite interesting to see some of the circuits they've worked really well at and some of the circuits where they'll need to focus on for next season. But I think overall, for a very new project, they've done a good job this year. So coming up towards halfway through, just over 13 minutes to go in this free practice session. It is Toprak Razgatlioglu currently the quickest by 0.8 of a second over Axel Bassani in P2, Sam Lowe's third, and Xavi Vierge in fourth place. But seventh times are not of major importance in this session. It's not a competitive session, this one. Razgatlioglu, is he going to improve though this time through? Not this time, as the BMW continues at the top of the charts. Of course, big changes for BMW coming up next year with Michael van der Mark also not returning. Toprak off to MotoGP, and it was confirmed ahead of the event here in Portugal that Portuguese former MotoGP race winner Miguel Oliveira will be joining the BMW squad for next year alongside Danilo Petrucci for 2026. Certainly a power-packed lineup to continue BMW's challenge for world titles. Very impressive indeed from the BMW squad. News announced the crew chiefs as well over the last few days as well. Alvaro Bautista looking to improve here, and he does into P6. It's been a relatively quiet weekend for Bautista so far, but showing a bit of improvement here. Of course, he'll try to take the fight, as we said earlier, to Locatelli and Petrucci in the fight for third in the championship, ahead of Bautista's move to take Petrucci's ride with the Barney Ducati squad for the 2026 season. Iannone improves. Quickest time so far, Razgatlioglu 1:35.378. Quickest time of the week so far, ahead of Bulliger and Alex Lowe's in the combined classification. Lowe's and Bassani in P2 and 3 in this session, so Bimota continuing their improvements in pace. Just shy of Jonathan Ray's lap record from Superpole in 2022. Toprak, is he about to break when he comes across the line? He certainly does. 1:35.303. I was just about to say, was Toprak going to shade the lap record there? Ray's was a 1:35.346. Razgatlioglu 1:35.303 for a new lap record here at Eskimo. Yeah, and for Toprak, we saw yesterday a really strong pace on his longer run, and he's now got that all-time lap record as well, so he's able to prove his one lap pace too. But you'd expect that in the Superpole session will be well down into the 34s. Johnny's lap record from 22 is a long time ago. A lot of progress has been made both with the bikes and with the Pirelli tyres, so you'd certainly expect that when we get into the Superpole session and everyone's using their Q tyre, that they will make that big step forward. Yes, the Q tyre being brought back in. We didn't see it at Motorland Aragon, where a much harder selection of tyre compounds were brought along by Pirelli. They've gone for softer compounds, including the Q tyre, for this weekend here in Portugal. So we come towards the halfway point in the session. Niccolo Bulliger in 7th in the classification at the moment, looking for a bit of improvements.
See Nico here on the brakes down into 6. This is where it's so easy for the bike to get unsettled. You can see there for Bulaga, when you speak to the riders about it, they say more often than not it's only going in the couple of meters too deep, but you're right on that limit and the bike gets itself unsettled trying to get it stopped into 6. It's an easy place to make a mistake, and we tend to see a lot of crashes through there during the races because riders will try and save it and rescue it, but just not quite able to do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty big moment there for Nicolo Bulaga, under braking, the back wheel lifting off the ground. Remy Gardner showing some improvement.
You could see some flags out there as well, some lack of adhesion flags down the run in towards turn 1 as well. Couldn't quite see what the issue was, but for Remy, good lap there to put himself up into P4.
Remy Gardner showing some good improvements. He'll be staying with GRT Yamaha. Will be joined by the current Supersport World Championship leader Stefano Manzi for next season. We don't yet know what Dominic Egerter's plans are for the 2026 season, whether he'll go back to World Supersports, but we'll have to wait and see on that. We've got a yellow flag out at the moment up at turn 4. Ryan Vickers has hip problems up there. He's on the gravel around the outside of turn 4. Frustrating weekend for Ryan, with the news he won't continue with the Motocorsa Ducati team for next year. So Razgat Lioglu has gone quicker again, a 1:35.202 in the book this time around. Bulaga looking to improve. He's down in 8th place in the classification in this session at the moment with 8.5 minutes to go. Improves to P2 across the line, still 4/10 of a second down on Toprak, with Alex Lowe's 3rd in the times. So Bassani up there behind him. So things pretty much following at the moment the form we saw in yesterday's free practice sessions. So Fino Foti, the team manager of Ducati, looking fairly calm on pit wall.
Yeah, just leaving pits as well is Jonathan Ray as well. Ray hasn't put in a lap time yet after we saw him run off the turn 1, so we'll see what he's able to do whenever he gets out there and gets himself up to speed. It's good to see the Yamahas up there inside the top 5 with Remy Gardner. Locatelli a little bit further down the order than he'd want, but you'd imagine he hasn't put in that quality simulation run yet.
Locatelli in P11 at the moment, 1 place behind Andrea Iannone. This is what happened to Ryan Vickers up at turn 4, just getting out of shape there on the entry and through the gravel, but able to control things. Fairly tight looping left-hander, the 4th bend here at Estoril on the infield loop. Bautista comes through the Parabolica, the final turn, looking to improve his time from P6 to 1:36.2 at the moment. So he saves 2/10 of a second off that, goes P3 behind his teammates. Ducati's trying to take the fight to Toprak Razgat Lioglu. It's a familiar story so far this weekend here at Estoril. The BMW man just out of reach of the factory Ducatis. Then the Bimotors leading Yamaha is currently Remy Gardner in P6. Michael van der Mark down in P13 at the moment. A slightly disappointing year, to say the least, for the Dutchman, and he won't be returning to World Superbike next year. Big moment there, under braking, to say the least. Goodness me, into turn 1. Just about getting the bike stopped, I think, without it running out too wide onto the gravel, a la Jonathan Ray early in the session. Jonathan Ray now back up to speed and about to set a time.
Yeah, Johnny's about to set a fast time as well. This should put him somewhere up in and around the top 5, and maybe even up ahead of the likes of Bautista if he has a good run through to the line. 3rd fastest there for Johnny. That's a really good lock, just to jump straight off and put in a time like that. So his first lap of the 35s this weekend.
Memories of Estoril for Jonathan Ray, the venue where he clinched that 6th world title in 2020 on the Kawasaki. Speaking of Kawasaki, Garrett Gerloff has just gone up into P5, the best we've seen from him so far this weekend, the American.
Spoke to Garrett yesterday as he was leaving the circuit as well, and it's an interesting one for him because as the only rider out there in the Kawasaki, you don't really have that much that you're able to compare things to. He's able to get some information from what the Bimotas are doing, but with such a different frame, it's a very different challenge. So he's looking back to previous years' data to be able to see what the Kawasaki riders were doing in different places, and the championship moves on so quickly that it's a real challenge whenever you're the only rider out there on a certain bike.
Michael van der Mark, another big moment over the curbs there, coming out of turn 1, having run wide. Seems to be struggling a little with the handling of the BMW. Managed to gather that moment up. off improving here to P5. He's ahead of the two Bimotors now. It's Razgatlioglu from Bulliger. Ray now up into P3 in this session, ahead of Bautista, as we just saw. Then the Kawasaki in 5th place, then the Bimotors. Still Remy Gardner in the top 10, along with Xavi Vierge, who's the leading Honda, ahead of Sam Lowes on the Mark VDS Ducati. Not as yet showing the pace that we saw at Aragon. Quick but frustrating season for Sam Lowes so far. Is Gerloff going to improve further here over the line? He does. He goes to P4 above Alvaro Bautista. Getting a little bit out of shape there under braking for turn 1. But Gerloff showing improvements here. Very easy to lose it over those curves on the exit, as we saw from Michael van der Mark earlier on as well. So we'll be moving to passengers new, as we were saying, next year, with Miguel Oliveira and Danilo Petrucci moving to BMW for the 2026 season. Bautista we're moving, staying with on a Ducati, moving to the Barney Start team. Bautista goes back up into P3, 135.9, but Razgatlioglu still over 0.4 of a second up on his championship rival Niccolo Bulliger at the moment. Here is Sam Lowes. Are we going to see some improvements from the Mark VDS Ducati here down in P10 moment? He certainly does improve. He goes second. Impressive lap there from Sam Lowes. Yeah,
the big thing for Sam there is he's found 0.3 of a second in the final sector as well. And you can see for him it is a sim for a shorter run there, and able to give himself a chance to make that jump up, just like Jari Montella's done as well. So a good lap there for Montella.
Yes, big improvement from Jari Montella. He's had a quiet week so far on the second of the Barney Ducatis.
This is where the strategy comes into it for all the riders, just trying to see what the best option is. If you want to go out there and try and use a Q tire to give yourself that lap, or if you want to try and go and do those longer runs. And you can see for Michael Ruben Rinaldi, didn't leave the pits at the start of the session, and it looks like that's going to be the end of the session for him.
Yes, Michael Ruben Rinaldi not leaving the pits on the Moto X Racing Yamaha so far in this session, so there will be no time for the number 12. So the other rider with no time set is Danilo Petrucci, who has withdrawn from this weekend. That injury. Xavi Vierge outside the top 10 road, still quickest of the Honda. Zike Lecuona still easing his way back into racing after those injuries in Hungary, forced him to miss the last couple of rounds. Lecuona down in P14 in the times at the moment. 3 factory Hondas out there this weekend, with Tetsu Nakashima riding a third machine, and Vierge, big improvements on the Honda up into P4. This is Remy Gardner through turns at 9 and 10 over on the back of the course, the tightest part of the Estoril circuit. Then it's down into the S's and towards the Parabolica. Long right-hander at the end of the lap.
Yeah, Remy on for a personal best. Locatelli's on for a good lap as well. So the Yamaha's just starting to use those softer tyres, give themselves the last lap of the session to be able to try and move up the order. Obviously, in a free practice session, these times don't matter. They're just about giving you that confidence going into the Super Pole session. In around about an hour and a half's time, we'll be getting underway for that.
It's just over 90 seconds of the session left to go, so the riders will be performing perhaps a final time attack here. Just looking down the time screen, Xavi Vierge and Alvaro Bautista on the pace. Axel Bassani goes up to P3 as well with his best of the session. It's Razgatlioglu still at the top, though, ahead of Sam Lowes. Bassani third, Bulliger in 4th place in the classification in FP3 at the moment. Looking down the times, nobody else on improving run. Remy Gardner does the best of all in the first sector, so looking to get the Yamahas up there as well. Jonathan Ray having slipped down to P10. We've not seen very much from Locatelli in this session, his teammate. He's in P6 at the moment. Bautista comes across the line and doesn't improve his time. Still Razgatlioglu at the top of the fastest lap of the weekend so far, who's broken Jonathan Ray's lap record. Remy Gardner still on to improve here on the Yamaha, the third best in the first sector. He lost a couple of tenths there. But as we've just said, it is not a competitive session. It's just all about setting the bike up for that Super Pole session. But worth perhaps doing a time attack, just testing tyres ahead of Super Pole later on. See what Remy Gardner can do here, looking to improve, comes up towards the line.
Yeah, it's also about being able to see what that tyre life is like over the course of a stint as well. We saw in last year's Super Pole race plenty of riders able to use that Q tyre, including the race winner Nicola Bulaga. So for a lot of teams and riders, they'll know that that's the option they're going to have to use in tomorrow's short race.
So Remy Gardner went up to P3 with that lap of 1:35.57. Is Toprak going to improve in his final lap? I don't think he is. About a tenth of a second down in the third sector on his record lap from earlier in this session. The checkered flag is now out on free practice 3. It will be Toprak who is quickest at 1:35.6 on his final lap. Bring you the classification fairly shortly as the final few riders come in to take the checkered flag, but Toprak still with the edge clearly on his championship rival Nicolo Bulaga. With a fairly quiet run for Alvaro Bautista in that section, down in the lower reaches of the top 10 on times. Things largely following the form that we saw in FP1 and 2. We'll see if Alex Lowe's can improve. No, he doesn't. P7 for Alex for a personal best in this session. Remy Gardner breaking the order we saw yesterday, and Sam Lowe's up there in P2. A big improvement from the Mark VDS man. Bulaga comes in to take the checkered flag. Yeah,
it looks like Bulaga's out there on his race tyres as well, so that's why he's a little bit further down the order like you'd expect. But for Bulaga, we know that in a Super Pole session he's going to be strong and he's going to be a contender for that pole, but it's going to be a good Super Pole session whenever you see the confidence that Razgadioglu has, a new lap record in this session, and obviously after yesterday's longer run pace as well, able to show what he can do in the race run. Here through turns 9 and 10 for Bulaga, the slow corners up at the top of the hill. This is where the change direction is really important. The final sector around this track is really tricky for the riders. This is where a lot of the lap time is made because it's turns 9, 10, 11, 12 and then the long turn 13 at the end of the lap. So this is really the section of the track where if you're going to generate a lap time, you need to be strong through that part of the track.
Nicolo Bulaga certainly looking strong so far this weekend, but not quite strong enough. Toprak still with that slight edge so far this weekend. Bulaga getting fastest in FP2. The one to impress in that session was Remy Gardner, showing some good pace on the GRT Yamaha. Nice little stoppy there at the end of the session. There'll be 1 or 2 practice starts. There's our wild card this weekend as well, the American Bobby Fong. Came close to the Moto America title this year for the Attack Performance Yamaha team. Their first appearance in World Superbikes since back in 2022. Bobby Fong towards the foot of the times so far.
Yeah, looked like Bobby there just making a bit of an apology to Ian One there for something out on track, but certainly for the riders now it's about gearing up for Super Pole in just over an hour and a half's time, so around about 11 o'clock local time, that's when we'll be on their way for the session that conditions everything. If you're able to qualify well, you can have a good race weekend. This is where the pressure really builds on the riders in the time before the qualifying session. So this is where teams need to find those small solutions and small steps.
Toprak instantly into a debrief with Phil Maron back in his pit box. We see his style through that tight section at turns 9 and 10 up at the back of the course. Looking as smooth as he always does through there. It tends to be at the end of the straights we see Toprak with the rear wheel off the ground.
Yeah, Toprak's a rider that his style is very dependent on what the bike is allowing him to do as well, where he's got that engine braking working well. That's whenever he feels really comfortable and confident, and a lot of the times for the engine braking it's about allowing you just to drag that bike into the corners, and in that top part of the track Toprak's able to do that very well. The slower corners definitely always playing into his strength, but turn 8 and 9 always where he's able to find some lap time.
So Toprak Razgatlioglu tops free practice 3 here at the EICMA Estoril round, ahead of Sam Lowe's on the Mark VDS Ducati. New lap record for Toprak on the BMW. Remy Gardner, the top Yamaha in 3rd. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 places, with Axel Bassani in 4th position. Jonathan Ray showed good pace early on, as did Garrett Gerloff. They slipped back to 12th and 13th in the times. Michael Ruben Rinaldi failing to set a time. With that new lap record at top on combined times. but everyone improving in that third session of the weekend. Remy Gardner impressive up there in P3.